Good evening and welcome to the Select Board meeting of Tuesday, February 18th. My name is...
March.
When did we lose February?
I don't know. It got lost in the...
I know it was a short month.
Good evening
Redo.
and welcome to the Select Board meeting of March 18th. That last meeting was very quick. My name is Jim Lehan. I'm joined by Anita Mecklenburg and Kevin Roach. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's what happens when you come early and have nonsensical conversations and your brain decides to shut down. Anyway, welcome. Do we have any public comment this evening? Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Join us at the table, please. We just need your name and address, and we all know you, but that is the rules.
I'm David Rosenberg, living at 123 North Street in Norfolk. Prior to COVID, the Select Board had office hours. As I recall, once a month, one member of the Select Board was available for one-on-one discussions with residents. When people make public comments here, I know the Select Board is constrained, so they can't really respond because that might be considered a deliberation by a quorum of a board that wasn't noticed. I found the office hours convenient. I believe that I use that 3 times to have meetings, and I'd strongly encourage the Select Board to resume that practice. I know that you can't respond now, and you know that if there were other issues you couldn't respond, but sometimes it's handy to be able to discuss something where I'm not the only person speaking, but I can get some feedback. That's it for me.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're quite welcome.
Are there any other public comments this evening?
This says no signal.
I'm not sure.
I checked with
I'm
Amanda.
not sure what to construe that as a public comment or not.
There's no one raising their hand.
No one there, okay. All right. All right, good evening. Well, we'll get to the agenda, if you will.
All right,
Justin.
I'll do this pretty quickly. I'm going to have Ann Proto, who's our recreation director, really talk about some work that she's doing regarding an ADS assessment for conservation and recreation properties. I'll just toss it in, Ann, because she has a meeting she has to go to right after this, so I'll let her speak.
Plenty of
Welcome,
time.
Ann.
Thank you very much for having me. So, Conservation and Recreation have been working together on an ADA grant, and we did receive the grant from the Office of Disabilities. It's a $59,500 grant.
That's awesome.
We have contacted Beta Engineering and worked to establish a contract to get the work done. It addresses recreation properties, specifically ADA accessibility. Some of our recreation properties, as you know, just because of their age, really don't have adequate accessibility. So we need to assess it, come up with a transition plan, as these grants are. This is what these grants are. And then we are eligible to apply for project grants. That would be the next cycle. So Beta is the company. We've used them for a sidewalk plan, an ADA assessment sidewalk plan. We've also used them for a facilities plan. And interestingly, there's some space at the library that's sort of missed in between the two. So I've actually added that to this contract as well, so we can address accessibility to Town Hill as well. But we have an extensive list of all the conservation properties and the recreation properties, and they will assess what is needed, come up with a transition plan, and we will prioritize some, and then we can start working on project grants.
I applaud this. I was looking through the scope of work. Some of these places I didn't know we even had. I'm sure you all may, well, I don't know, but there were some that, wow, where's that?
Well, there are a lot, and there are a lot that we can't get
A lot.
to.
Anyway, this is a great thing, yeah.
It's actually, I will say, it's really been very nice working with Conservation. We've worked well together, and I'd like to say I'd like it to continue. It can only continue for about 10 months, but it can continue for 10 months.
Anita, comments?
I think the partnership is always a good thing, and so congratulations on the partnership. And I love that word grant. I didn't realize it was going to be like my most favorite word, but grants are great for our community. So thank you so much. And I think this just makes Norfolk a little bit better, and I really appreciate your energies and partnership.
Yeah, happy. Really enjoy doing it. So happy to be able to do it, and happier when you sign it.
Yep,
Yep.
comments?
Thank you for all the work.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't wish you the very best.
Well, thank you.
And,
I am going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
I know, but you have announced it, and you will be deeply missed.
Well,
You've been incredible. The work you've done for the community and the
Absolutely.
recreation programs have been, let's just say you have left your mark,
Well, thank you very much.
very much so. So thank you.
I must say, I'm very happy to be able to say that I've had a job for 25 years, and I really still love coming to work every day. So
Well, that was obvious.
I'm a lucky person.
Well, we were lucky to have you.
Thank
I
you.
agree.
Thank you.
Not going to get rid of me right away.
You got plenty of work still to do.
All right, enough of all this emotional stuff
you.
now, but
Yeah.
no, we wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
Let me see if I can do this. I move that we enter into a contract with Beta Group for an ADA assessment of conservation and recreation properties, and authorize the town administrator to enter into that contract on our behalf.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Plenty of time
Thank
for the
you.
next meeting.
Thank you.
The next item on the board's agenda is
Yep.
statement of interest regarding MSBA submission. Our superintendent, Dr. Alardi, here is to speak to that.
Dr. Lardy, nice to see you.
And before I jump to the statement of interest, I just also want to wish Anne the best in her retirement, and she has been a fantastic partner with the schools
she has.
through COVID. They offered remote learning and supervised sites for students, and they always are willing to work. So we will miss her as well. So best to Anne. I'm here tonight to talk to you about the MSBA process. So I've been a couple of times over the last 6 months to talk about the space problem that we're having at this facility right now at the H. Olive Day and anticipated future growth at the Freeman Kennedy. As you're aware, we brought forward a building project that was unsuccessful at the ballot. The building committee has met since that time to talk about feedback that we've received. I think the biggest thing, I'm not sure what you're hearing, but what we are hearing is the cost of the project, given the current economic conditions, the fire station, the Tri-County project. What the building committee recommended and what we think is the next best step is to submit an application to the Mass School Building Authority to see whether or not we have applied in the past, and it was always the intent to consider applying again. If we were selected by MSBA to participate, they would cost share the funding requirements of a building addition. The H. Olive Day and the Freeman Kennedy project were funded at about 53%. The state paid for, and the remainder was for the town. Applying to MSBA does not commit the district or the town to moving forward with the project. It's just exploring whether or not we may be able to access significant funding from the state for a project of this type. If we were to be accepted, we would have to repeat portions of the feasibility study. MSBA would assign an architectural firm. There's an opportunity to relook at the project, look at scope, look at any changes in design that you'd want to consider. But none of that happens unless you're selected. So we are recommending submitting an application. In order for us to apply, both the school committee and the select board have to vote to allow the district to submit an application. So that's why I'm here before you today.
Could I ask a question? Is it for the Freeman Kennedy School?
Freeman Kennedy expansion, yeah.
Is there any way that the H. Olive Day School, it might be applied because it's a much older school? You have a better chance of getting the grant, no?
No, because of the age of the H. Olive Day School, they would likely not fund an addition because they're looking for projects that are going to have long-term sustainability.
You also have land considerations.
Yeah, in terms of expansion there and
conservation and other land that
conservation.
would limit the ability to expand.
But when they did fund the H. Olive Day roof, which was quite a few years ago, it had to have an expected lifespan of a certain period of time before they would even consider eligibility. And it's aging out beyond that, so.
A reasonable question.
Okay, quick question, okay. Now, did they do the same thing on the Freeman Kennedy, an age expected life?
The Freeman Kennedy's a new school, so it has a lot more longevity than the H. Olive Day does. So yes, it would be appropriate. And we've talked to them. MSBA was actually just studied all of the schools in the Commonwealth. They've come out and done site visits and looked at conditions, electrical systems, all of that. Both of our schools are in good shape. I don't see any reason that they would not consider the Freeman Kennedy.
Okay.
They were impressed by the preventative maintenance plans and the conditions of the building, which is a credit to Matt, who is probably coming, I think, later tonight, Matt Malnerich and his team. They've done a great job.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions. I think it's a fabulous idea. It's potentially millions of dollars for our town. So I think there's no harm in asking. Like you say, it's not a commitment. I think asking is a great idea. So you have my full support.
And then if we were to get funding, then you would have to vote. So there's, like you said, there's no commitment, there's no harm in applying. Then you look at the conditions, what we would be eligible for, and then can make a decision at that point.
It's a no-brainer. There's no downside to applying.
Great. Except for the lengthy language you're going to have to read for the vote that MSBA provides.
We just went through this at KP. We
Yes,
know it all
it's
too well.
very wordy, but it's mandated, required.
Yours is shorter than we had at KP. All right, do I have a motion?
Here we go. Yes?
Ingrid, I want to make sure, in terms of the language, I'm recommending they do the first paragraph. They don't need to do the whole thing, correct?
They need to read the whole language.
You want the whole thing?
We had to do the whole thing.
All right,
Yeah.
so we'll do the whole
That's
thing.
what MSBA requires,
All right,
yeah.
we'll do the whole thing then.
I'm in. Ready? Resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 18th, 2025, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the Select Board of Norfolk, Massachusetts, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize, do we need to vote first? Or is this the motion?
This is the motion.
Has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 2025 for the Freeman Kennedy School located at 70 Boardman Street, Norfolk, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Elimination of existing overcrowding and prevention of severe overcrowding expected to result from increased enrollments, which must be substantiated. The district is currently out of space at the H. Olive Day School and will have to raise the maximum class size next year to accommodate enrollment. The computer lab and music room have already been converted to general education classrooms. The district has also relocated our district special education offices in order to create additional classroom-type space, subdivided the library, and converted both the server room and the teacher copy room into instructional spaces. Increased enrollment due to significant building and construction has resulted in severe overcrowding at the H. Olive Day School and is expected to result in similar conditions at the Freeman Kennedy School in the next few years. And hereby, I'm not done, further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town of Norfolk to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
I will second that motion.
Actually, I think that is a little bit longer than the one we had at KP. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you
luck.
Very much.
Thank you
Good
for
luck.
pursuing
We'll
this
work on
option.
it.
Justin?
I'll tell you what's up later on. The next agenda item, we had discussed before, the town received a grant of $172,500 for Green Communities Grant. As I mentioned before, this was a collaboration with Matt Malnerich, Andy and the Energy Committee, advocating for, some additional funds for a solar panel repair at Freeman Kennedy School, as well as the heat pumps at DPW. I think we're not going to have Matt come because we don't really need to speak to it, but I know Andy from the Energy Committee wanted to particularly talk about the solar array briefly with the select board, so I wanted to provide that opportunity, and has a couple of slides that he wanted to address as well.
Welcome, Andy.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm going to just say that this project has to be a collaborative effort, and any delays we have, we're going to be on the short end of the stick financially, just because market pressures on panel equipment and replacement stuff is going up every day. So we have to act pretty quickly on this. And the last slide I had here is about the expected involvement with the other town departments and committees. We need to have buy-in 100% on this to make this work correctly. So anyways, the first slide should be up. I'm not sure if we're going to see that. Basically, I'll talk about the history. The system went in 2012 during the school construction, and it was energized in 2013. We started having problems about 5 years, which is kind of typical. I have my theories of what happened. I think because that room didn't have proper ventilation, the system cooked itself. But it showed chronic decay of periodic restarts, and that's unfortunately the simplest way to restart these inverters. Next slide. This is the inverter itself. The big problem is the silver box you see up there. That's the problem. And this is the array on the school right now, 180 panels. And best way to describe it, it's actually split into two separate arrays, which then they go down and they join at the inverter here to make the 180 panels makes 50 kilowatts worth of power.
Keep it in English now, Eric.
So,
This is not our expertise.
everybody's gonna have to learn this eventually, because the way power demands are, it's got to become a second language for people. So bottom line is that we're proposing, or had proposed at one point, and I think if you've been at town meeting the past 3 years, we talked about replacing the inverters. Originally, we thought that might be the way to go. Well, after flying the panels, point out that one right there. That one looks kind of funny. We can go to the next slide. So we talked about just replacing the inverters, put 2 small inverters in or 3 small inverters in, depending upon what we have based on that panel system that's up there. But looking at the potential problems and the fact that that company is no longer in business, so we had no warranty, and we're beyond that 50% warranty, so you start looking at a significant acceleration of failure rates. So with the $100,000 grant that was available through Green Communities, it made sense to look at replacing all the panels. We could basically add 50% output from about 50 to 72 kilowatts, which should be significant in terms of savings to the town, just due to offset of electric use. To date, that system was up there, made 530 megawatt hours, which is basically 530 homes for the course of a year, give or take. So, I mean, it gives you an idea how much it was making. The school definitely uses a lot of power. It's the largest building and the largest power usage, but it's actually uses the energy fairly efficiently. But again, we knew that when we built one, and I sat on the school building committee, we knew that was going to be the case because we were increasing the technology. So that being said, so by removing the panels, we could increase it. Actually, you can go to the next one. Next slide. So this is an example of exactly what we would do the same thing. This was an exterior inverter on the left side and replaced with 4 smaller inverters. This was about a 3-week project. So it kind of gives you an idea. It's going to be a longer term to do all the work up on the roof, though, because of the elevated area. This was a ground-mounted system, but just to show you, it can be done. This is, like I said, this is about 3 weeks worth of work, pulling the old inverter out and putting the new one in. Next one. So here are the financials. These numbers I gave you are based on what I physically can buy this equipment for. Not that I have $47,000 credit limit on my credit card, but you can see the total equipment replacement will be about $92,000 and change, and we're probably looking at about $30,000 of labor to pull the system. I know we've been talking with Select, and Justin and I need to have a discussion sooner than later about trying to get them on board. We've been talking with them for a while. I've reached out to a couple of vendors I've worked with that possibly would be interested in undertaking this project slightly as a loss leader, so they get a repair of a system under their belt. They do installations, they don't do repairs, and this would actually be a good one, good PR for them. So we could also sell the old panels too, about $40 a piece. That's the going rate on Marketplace and Facebook. So we could recoup some money as back.
Andy, can I just ask a question?
Yes, sir.
It shows my lack of knowledge in this field. When you say we can sell the old ones for $7,200, which I assume means they can be refurbished in some form and reused?
No. What you do is you sell them to someone, and they fully understand that they could be failing at any time. But $40 is that's the going.
So they're buying them on a bet.
They're buying them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you may find that the panels could have another 20 years out of them, for all you know. But again,
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No. This is the. I'm not gonna say it's the black market part of this whole thing, but essentially it's what it is. This is the secondary market that you can buy used panels, you can buy brand new panels. I mean, the clearinghouse that I spec'd out the $47,000. That's brand new equipment that was surplus from a larger project that was scaled back or canceled.
Thanks.
Yeah. So couple things we would definitely need to do is pull the panels off and check the roof for rust because of how those were fastened on the roof. And next one. And this is the big ask. So we need support. We need an opinion. Is this a repair or replacement? I've worked with other towns and municipalities, and electrical inspectors have had different opinions on there. I'm not going to say which is better, but this is something that I think we need to get an opinion on how we deal with this and how we go forward, and probably what's determined then will determine whether we have to address some of the recent code compliance issues, specifically the rapid shutdown. The price I gave you did include inline rapid shutdown equipment. What it is, it's a safety thing, so the DC power stops at the panels. It doesn't continue through the down to the building into the inverters. So it's a safety issue. Fire chief will have to be involved too. So. Weight of the panels is about 2 pounds less, but I still think getting Bob to make an opinion whether we need a full engineering study, I don't think we would. But if we find damage, again, we do open a little bit of a Pandora's box, but I'm trying to be realistic and cover all the bases. And then I already talked with Todd about putting this under Chapter 25A, which is an approved contracting method for energy services. Todd wasn't familiar. That replacement of those inverters I showed you, that was done under 25A. And it was an approved contractor with the state. Contract terms are already signed. You simply get a best price from them, or I'd like to say they give you the best price, or they give you a price that you can live with, which are not necessarily the same thing. So, but that's.
Can we what is the advantage of the 25A? I'm not.
There's a lot of contracting issues that don't have to be done. You simply just can ask for a quote, essentially, and contract terms are already signed. That's
Streamlines the process.
Yeah, it streamlines the process a lot. So, the other handout I gave you, the Mass Energy Insight, the only thing I can say about this is that doing this assessment and analysis has raised a lot of questions on what we're actually paying for electricity here, because it seems like each building has a slightly different rate, which it shouldn't, because if we're getting the same, if our supplier is the same for all the buildings. This may be because I don't have all the information, but ended in probably 3 weeks ago now, I had a chat with Kelly Brown from Green Communities, had to go back and re-enter some of the data on our energy use, and it just raised some red flags. So unfortunately, I like a good story and dug into this more. So I think we have to look at that. That's another side issue, but it definitely shows that we can, we'll see a savings to the town. And if we do rebuild this system, we should be able to get, $2,500 a year in annual income from selling the green credits. There's a company that I sell my credits for home that would take this. It's a small enough system where they don't do huge systems by any means, but they'd be interested in purchasing the green credits. And that's something that we can do. There's the SMART program, which is through the utilities, which, it's less than $1,000 a year. It's just not worth it to do that. It's they have what they call blocks, and each block had an incentive. And as you get to block 9, where you're finishing at block 8 now, block 9 is, it's 0.07 of a cent or 0.007 of a cent. Yeah, it's just per kilowatt. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. So anyways, so I guess I'm just letting you know this is going to need a little bit of effort on everybody's part, and if we can try and work on some of these questions here, and I can talk with Todd more if he needs some guidance, and I can pull up some documents for him so he can understand what the contracting method is. So, and I think that I'll turn it back to Justin because he was going to have you guys vote and sign for it.
We have to authorize executing the contract.
That's
Other than
correct.
that, yep.
So if you have any questions, you know where to reach me. Happy to show you what's going on. The longer, bigger issue, and I'm going to put a plug in for Matt's replacement, is make sure he knows something about solar.
Anita,
So,
questions?
and I'm
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
okay.
Kevin?
Okay.
As always, Andy, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, do we have a motion on this?
Now,
Turn to
yeah.
Anita.
I move that we authorize the execution of a contract to accept the Green Communities grant, and I authorize the town administrator on our behalf to enter into that contract.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Flip the page. Just keep going. One more. There you go. Right there. All right, go, sir.
Next one. So the next agenda on the board's, next item on the board's agenda is consider making an appointment to the Board of Registrars. I believe there was 3 names that were submitted to the Select Board. You have that information in the packet. I believe there is one person here who is here for questions if the board were to have any questions, but this is an appointment for a position to March 31st, 2028. I know we've discussed this, recently, so I won't really add too much more unless the board has any questions for me. I think Terry is the person that's here to answer any questions if you do want to hear from her.
Kevin, I'll start with you. Any questions?
I have no questions.
Okay. Anita?
May I just give, for the people watching, a short overview? The Board of Registrars, according to state law, we have to have 3 people, as well as the town clerk, who also runs the whole thing, and then 3 additional people. And they have many responsibilities in this volunteer, where mostly maintaining the voter registration, certifying signatures, certifying absentee voting, and there's a long list. And most importantly, they would conduct a recount in the event that was necessary. So the law says that we have to have both parties represented, and we did vote on it earlier, and I think we'll have to have a conversation about it again. But we have 3 names brought before us. I actually thought all 3 names looked amazing. And when we've had difficult choices before, we have oftentimes gone by attendance. So I didn't think there was a bad choice in the pile. Do we want to ask Terry to?
No, there are certainly no bad choices. Kevin, you have any comments on this at all?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do we have?
Terry's online.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm looking here and
sorry, I'm
you're not
We
there.
moved it over.
We're having some technical problems, Terry, here.
Terry, welcome. You
Okay,
want
that's
to?
okay. Thank you.
You certainly have an outstanding background. At least I can imagine enjoying getting your bachelor's degree in San Francisco was a great time. I mean, what a great city. Anyway, would you like to
Yes. That
tell
was
us?
a
Tell us
lifetime
why you
ago,
have
though,
interest
I'm
in this job.
afraid.
Tell us why you have interest in this job.
Well, mostly because I think I'm not a data person. I am a believer in free and fair elections, and I feel like even those words are a little melodramatic for Norfolk, but I think the last few election cycles have shown us that we have to be ready to dive in and roll up our sleeves if there is a contested election or if there's some discord around it. And I'm happy to help with that. Again, I'm not a data person, and I don't know if that actually matters, but I am, I believe very, very firmly and strongly in free and fair elections, and I believe that the process of recounts, particularly, is really hard and requires somebody to ask some tough questions and commit to being completely transparent. So I hope that doesn't happen in Norfolk ever, but if it does, I feel, I'd be happy to roll up my sleeves and lend my analytical skills and ask some tough questions and make sure that whatever process we undertook was fair and communicated properly to the town citizens and everything else. I'm very much an anti-chaos person. I feel like information is if it's shared honestly and freely, then we can avoid tension and that kind of stuff. So again, it seems melodramatic. I can't imagine anything like this happening in our little town, but I think the last several election cycles have told us that we should be ready and ready to step it up if we need to. So.
Thank you very much. Your points are well taken.
Sure.
I remember in my 40 years in this town, we had an election for the Board of Selectmen that I believe was down to a single-digit difference. And I know it went to one recount, and it may have gone to 2 recounts.
Wow, I didn't know that.
But it was less than 10-vote difference in every recount.
Wow.
So it is important, and that's not unfortunate. I mean, it just happens. That's democracy. So
it happens. Yeah, exactly. And I think, it does just happen occasionally. But I think it's happening more. I think there's more going on now, and I'd like to see it be smooth. I'd hate to see a fiasco in Norfolk. I think Norfolk is such a small town, and it's such a friendly community that it would be really a shame to let some dispute like that. I think it would be, let me rephrase that. I think should such a thing arise, it would be really important to manage it well and really be clear about what's happening. So I didn't know that by showing up, I would tip your hand. So I don't want to do that to my fellow applicants, I guess we are. But I'm happy to do it, and I'm recently retired, so I have some time. Happy to do it, but I'm also I wouldn't die on the sword if you picked somebody else either.
Can I ask a question?
one of the requirements of volunteering is showing up, so we thank you for that.
Right.
Kevin, any questions?
I have no questions.
Anita?
One of the rules of the Board of Registrars is that you do not have any other office in the community. Do you hold any office positions in Norfolk?
No, I do not. I'm a member of the Democratic Town Committee, but just a member.
Thank you.
Yep.
I don't have any other questions.
No, I don't either. We do have 3 really outstanding candidates.
I agree.
I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Terry before, but thank you very much. I do know Paula Green and personally, and I know she's also equally qualified. I don't know Mr. Collin.
Christian lives across the street from me, and he's an outstanding gentleman.
Okay. Not that knowing makes a difference, but anyway, what is the pleasure of the board?
I think showing up matters, and I would be happy to promote Terry's candidacy.
Okay. Are there any other feelings?
I agree.
Okay. Sounds like we have do I have a second for, are you making that as a motion?
I'll try to do it more officially. Ready?
Okay.
I move that we appoint Terry Cronin to the Board of Registrars with a term expiration of March 31st, 2028.
I'll second the motion.
Further discussion?
No.
Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you for volunteering.
Thank you, Terry. We really appreciate your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. We've got a couple of different appointments going on here. The next one is considering the appointment of Susan Rayner to the Council on Aging. This is for expiration of June 30th, 2026. The Council on Aging voted at their February 27th meeting to recommend Susan to fill the vacancy. Susan is not here in attendance tonight. She couldn't make it.
Any comments, questions?
No, I'm thrilled to have her serve.
Make a motion?
I move to approve the appointment of Susan Rayner to the Council on Aging with a term expiration of June 30, 2026.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
None.
Aye. Thank you.
All right, the next agenda item, we have Susan Jacobson, who's our Affordable Housing Director, and I see Peter Diamond, who's online as well, but this is to consider appointing Peter Diamond to the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust for a term expiration of June 30th, 2025. Sue, do you want to
Sue,
quickly
I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to.
Yeah.
But if you want to, feel free.
You don't think I have to? I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your chair called me. We all know that Peter's been very active. I think we're all very comfortable with that, so. But if you'd like to, I didn't mean to preempt you.
Yeah,
You've said it all.
yeah.
Do I have a motion, Kevin?
Yes, I'll make a motion to appoint Peter Diamond to the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust with the term expiration of June 30th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Peter. That's a lot of thank yous.
Kevin, you're out of luck.
I hope I didn't take your thunder, Sue. I apologize. Okay.
Sleep, not a problem.
Okay.
So the next agenda item is to consider approval of the Norfolk Grange annual Clean and Green Townwide Cleanup on Saturday, April 12th. In the board's packet is information regarding that process. DPW is prepared to assist, and we have no issues regarding that event. Sort of an annual event now that we really appreciate their involvement in the
For a
community.
long time.
Kevin, any questions? Or how about a motion?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the Grange 16th Annual Clean and Green Townwide Cleanup on Saturday, April 12th of 2025.
And you look on the bottom, add to the bottom by a friendly amendment by authorizing the provision of a dumpster for trash removal.
I didn't mention that. That is one of the provisions that we do for this event too.
That agreeable as a friendly motion? Friendly amendment?
Yes.
Second.
Okay. Any further? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I just think we should thank the Grange for holding this, and it is an excellent event. I participated in it when my kids were little, and it is a good way to give back to the community.
Okay.
Okay. Next is consideration approval of Town Hill for a couple events. So first, we have the Federated Church Easter Sunday service on April 20th, 2025, obviously 2025, 7:30 to 9:30 a.m., as well as the Norfolk Lions concert on Saturday, August 2nd, from 12 noon until 6 p.m. We have no concerns.
Business as usual.
Yep.
In the past, I've recused myself from the church because I was an officer. I am no longer an officer, so I do not feel compelled to do that. But Kevin and I are both Lions, so you're on your own.
All right.
No, I'm kidding. Kevin, you want to make that motion?
I make a motion to vote to approve the use of Town Hill for the following events. The Federated Church Easter Sunday service on April 20th, 2025, from 7:30 till 9:30 a.m. The Norfolk Lions concert on Saturday, August 2nd, 2025, from noon till 6 p.m.
Second.
Further? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. The next item on the board's agenda is consider approval of Town Hill for in a parade route for the Norfolk Memorial Day celebration that's going to take place on Monday, May 26th of this year. The parade usually commences around 8 a.m. There are some road closures associated with this parade and memorial service. We have no issues with it. It's sort of another annual event that the town does.
Public safety has no issues. All right, shall I?
Go for it.
I move that the board authorize the road closures for the route of Norfolk's Memorial Day Parade, as well as the use of Town Hill for the ceremony on Monday, May 26, 2025.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Another parade route for the board to consider, and this is for the baseball and softball parade that's going to take place on Saturday, April 26th. In the board's packet, there's some information regarding that proposal. The DPW is going to be putting up some signage and social media about this parade route, and the association is arranged to have a police officer be a part of the detail for this parade route. So in light of those considerations, we have no issues.
Business as usual. Do I have a motion? Kevin?
I vote to approve the parade route for the baseball and softball parade on April 26, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're on a roll.
We'll keep it going. The next item for the board to consider is some additional surge procurement contracts. So I think these are the last couple that we have. The board has handled a variety of these, as you're aware. These are sort of our annual contracts associated with our collaborative. And I will just amend this. you're not going to authorize the town administrator to sign. If you approve it, the board would sign this contract.
You do not want us to authorize the town administrator?
Correct.
Okay. Any discussion?
No, these are the two we
Nope.
left out last time. I remember them.
Yeah, we had pointed
Kick
them
the
out.
can.
Yep.
Do I have a motion?
I move that we award the Surge DPW procurement contracts as listed in the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ready? The next item is the board's intention to lay out Avery Way for acceptance at the annual May 14th town meeting. As we had talked previously about the warrant, there was two streets that we were considering to be accepted as public ways, Avery and MacArthur. MacArthur is not one that we're proceeding with just yet. Rich can talk about that at the following board meeting, but Avery Way is still going to be on the warrant, so this is part of the process of, getting that publicly accepted at the annual town meeting.
Discussions?
No, I'd love to see these roads accepted. Reduce those
Go
unaccepted
for it.
roads. I move that the board vote to, on its own initiative and based on the recommendation of the town planner, refer the proposed laying out of Avery Way to the planning board for its report and recommendations as to whether such way should be laid out as a public way.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. The next item might be a moot point at this point, but when I had crafted the deadline to extend remote and hybrid meetings was coming up this month. Just as a heads up, the House did vote on, yesterday voted to extend remote and hybrid meetings for 2 years to June 30th, 2027. The Senate is supposedly going to consider that on Thursday. So like I said, it might be a moot point, but it was something that I know the town has really utilized very heavily, remote and hybrid meetings. So I'd crafted a letter of support for that. You don't have to do it now. I think it's going to be passed, but if you want to still lend your letter of support and send it to Senator Roush and Rep. Vaughn, you can.
My understanding is it's being voted on this week. So
I think the
they'll vote
Senate will
before the
vote for
letter
it.
gets there.
I'm pretty sure it will happen.
So why don't we skip the letter then?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just was under the impression from one of those MSA board meetings, I think it was, that they were going to make a permanent change, not a 2-year change.
That's what the MMA has advocated for that. The House decided just to do a 2-year change. They didn't want to make it permanent. So I know that's something that we just keep kicking down the line and intermittently address, but
The next
that's
2
what the House
years.
voted, yeah.
I
Thank
agree
you.
with you. I agree with you.
So we'll skip 14 because it's sort of moot,
Yeah.
I think it's going to pass.
and I think that we'll support it.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. All right, the next item is consider, review, and execute the warrant. I just want to give a quick update. As I had mentioned before, one of the articles is being removed, which was MacArthur Ave. There's potential some other change. I know that it has been mentioned by the citizen petitioner for some of those articles. They wanted to remove them from the warrant, but we can't. We can't. They would need to get all the signatures from all those petitioners to advocate to remove it. So maybe they can in due time, but I think the petitioner wants to look to IP that article. One of the other things that we're looking at is inserting an article for Tri-County to use the stabilization funds. So we're not prepared to do that yet. I don't have the language. So what I'm recommending the board do is just close the warrant at this period. We will, and then we'll review it on April 1st and then execute it April 1st, hopefully with all the changes that we have.
Couldn't pick a better day to do it.
So if we close the warrant, will that preclude the possibility of adding any other items?
No. It particularly will preclude just any, although I don't see this happening, any other boards or commissions or citizen petitions, although if they get their signatures, they'll get on the warrant either way. No. Because, like I said, the intent would be April 1st to have any sort of associated changes with planning articles, because we're waiting for the Attorney General to review some of those, but also insert the article for Tri-County, the stabilization fund.
Petitions could be added even though we close the warrant, as long as they do it within the time frame.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it would prevent anyone from adding an additional warrant, but we can always reopen the warrant
Correct.
Could always.
and add anything that we so choose.
So I think it's just a
It's a
formality.
formality.
Yeah, it's a formality. Just close it and let people know this is what we're planning to do. April 1st, execute it.
So are we comfortable in?
I'm very comfortable.
All right, so a motion to close the warrant?
I'll make a motion to close the warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next one, I do want Sue to come up, because I know she's looking for another meeting. But the next item, we have Tom and Andrew from our town council really talk to you about the process of, exchanging or acquiring Chapter 61A or 60B property. But, we had talked with Affordable Housing Trust, so I just wanted to let you know how the Affordable Housing Trust had taken a view of this property that we had talked about previously on Everett Street.
Hi, good evening. Sue Jacobson, Affordable Housing Director. The trust has met and discussed this property and indicated that they're interested in this property. At our last meeting, Justin was going to get the particulars legally, how we could go about doing that. One of our members has walked the property, but the board was in agreement that what could be projected for this property is not really what folks would probably like to see it happen. So we could either land bank it, hold on to it. We could try to sell it and see if a developer wanted to do kind of a couple of market rate units, a couple of affordable units. And so we have some options. Rich was going to check for us on how it looked as far as lots go. But we do know at least that we can, I think Rich said 2 units could go there, 2 homes could go there. So that's something that would be advantageous.
And we had shared this information with the other boards and committees as well. CPC was in support of actually the Affordable Housing Trust pursuing this because of time, and the work that's required to do an appraisal, et cetera, if CPC was to look at it. So I wanted to let Tom Harrington, our town council, just talk about what that looks like if we were to transfer our right to acquire the property, just for the board, because I know we've had some questions about it. And then, if the board has any questions, you can ask Tom and Andrew. I don't see them on there, though.
Yeah, they are.
I see their name, but I don't see Tom.
Take it away.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, thanks. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. Tom Harrington, Town Council, and I'm here with Andrew Bettinelli, my associate. Andrew, you want to kick us off on this discussion?
Happy to. So as the board may know, on February 18th, the town received a notice of intent from a property owner that it was going to sell property that's currently enrolled in Chapter 61B, colloquially known as chapter land or current use tax. A current use tax program. This allows the owner of certain types of property, in this case recreational land, to have it be taxed at its current use, which is typically significantly lower than the property's value under the highest and best use standard. So for 61B property, that current use value cannot be more than 25% of the full assessed value. So once the town receives the right of first refusal, the notice of intent, that starts a clock running for the town to exercise its right of first refusal. So for the last several years, this property owner has received a tax break. One of the things the town gets in return is an option to purchase if they decide to sell or change the use of the property. Once the town receives that notice, it has 30 days to notify the property owner of any deficiencies in its notice. I sent a letter to the board detailing the deficiencies that I see in the notice. However, you don't have to. You can choose to waive those deficiencies if you are ready to proceed under the timeframes prescribed in the statute. We have 2 more days to notify them of the deficiencies. As I said previously, once a sufficient notice is received, then there's a 120-day period for the town to exercise its right of first refusal. The town exercises its right of first refusal by matching a bona fide offer under 61B. This means that the town will meet the purchase price that's in a valid purchase and sale agreement, not subject to any conditions. Here, the seller provided a purchase and sale agreement showing $285,000 for the 13-acre parcel. So I think now the board has to decide if it's comfortable moving ahead, knowing that it has 92 days left to exercise its right of first refusal, or if instead it would prefer to notify the property owner of the defects in its application. If the property owner elects to cure them, then we'll have a full 120 days once that notice is received back. The property owner is not under any obligation to cure those defects, but that would just mean then it can't sell the property unless it unenrolls it from the program and waits a certain period of time. So that's where we are for now. Happy to answer any questions.
I had a question. So I was curious about the assignment fee, to understand what is the assignment fee, and then why did the assignment fee change, and would that be part of our fiscal responsibility, or I didn't really fully understand why it went from 100 to 52,000 and what that was all about.
That's not for us. That is the original purchaser assigned their right to purchase. That has nothing to do with us. We're only required to match the bona fide offer that's in that first purchase and sale agreement. The assignment and the change of the assignment fee are relative to a transaction that the purchaser, I guess, hopes to enter into. But for the town's purposes, matching the offer is just that initial $285,000.
I think the last 61A piece of property that the town purchased was the Weber property, if I remember, which is over and back of Jane and Paul's farm. So I remember that process well. I guess a question to Sue. It's my understanding you, on the trust, have funding sufficient to purchase this. Is that right?
We do.
So you would not require CPC funds?
No, but I did speak with the chair of CPC, and when we've done things like this, there's obviously no guarantee, there's been no board votes, but we have a very good relationship with CPC, and often because they can't react the same way we can, they work with us and provide us some funding if we have a project that we're trying to get off the ground.
So you haven't formally said you want to purchase this yet?
We were in our last meeting, the trust was asked how everybody felt about it, and we are meeting on the 31st.
So there's still plenty of time.
Correct.
So if you were to, okay, I don't want to, if you were to decide you want to purchase this, and having the funding, you don't have to go to CPC, is the intent then that it needs to go to the May meeting? Because the 120 days won't make November.
It doesn't have to go to any meetings because our budget is...
You're not asking CPC to get involved?
No.
Okay, so you don't need a warrant article?
We don't need anything to make the purchase.
That's my point, okay.
My only question for Tom, while we have him, that I just thought of, Tom, would this be, because it's the first right of refusal, are we still required to put in the central register that we're looking for, when I...
No. Yeah,
No.
I understand the procurement
Great.
part of it.
Yes.
You're not.
Okay.
This is an opportunity that's presented to the town through a statute, and we can take advantage of it if we choose to do so.
Terrific, thank you.
And I don't know that any other board has stepped forward at recreation or anything.
No.
So we wait for your decision, I guess, huh?
Conservation doesn't let me know anything. Sorry, Donna. I was talking to Donna.
Well, you can answer the question.
I haven't heard from any other board or commission at the.
Well, there's time.
Yep, there's conservation still. We've heard from assessors, recreation received this information. Planning board gave a comment.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
CPC.
Let us know.
Could I offer just a quick thought? So I think one of the things we're looking for tonight is whether or not the board would like us to go back to the applicant and say, you know what, your notice is deficient, do it again. My advice is that we don't do that unless we really think we need the time. We've kind of got a bird in the hand here. And if we think we can live with the 90-day requirement to close, then I would leave it as is. I would waive the deficiency. The deficiency is kind of minor in nature, and I proceed that way. We can either run out the clock or we can buy it. But that would be my advice. But happy to take questions and obviously do whatever you'd like us to do.
So when is the date that we're required to notify them by?
You have 90 days.
Of a deficiency?
No, when did it arrive in the office and the clock started ticking?
I think it was February 18th.
You have 90 days left.
Right, so March, April, May, yeah, we're fine.
Yeah. And where you have independent funding, you don't need a warrant article. If it were to go for conservation or anything like that, it would have to require a warrant article and CPC funding, so.
CPC needs to do appraisal if it gets involved, et cetera, so
And
there's
if it
a lot
doesn't
more.
come in at the
Which
right
most likely could
price-
not get done by May.
Right. That's a
So
very lengthy process.
You would need a motion, Tom, for us to waive the deficiency and anything else?
I actually don't need a motion.
We just don't do
I
it.
guess I need a motion if you want us to enforce the deficiency. If you're willing to waive it, we don't need to do anything.
Okay, thank you.
What's your pleasure?
I'd say we waive the deficiency and move this show on the
Yes,
road.
could I ask?
Please, of course.
Have you walked the property, and how much is that a wetland of the property?
So I have not walked the property.
Okay.
I've seen a map of it.
Yep.
The chair has walked the property, which is why we would be speaking with conservation. We would be buying it for $285.
Yep.
So we want to make sure that we can get our return on the investment.
Right.
So, but in the town of Norfolk, let's say worst-case scenario, it's a one-home lot
Yep.
with 13 acres of land, that would sell in the mid-3s to the 4s, I believe. So that's not a concern as far as when we get our money back.
Well, semi-walked it. I went dry, and, I can't say that I walked the whole lot, so I can't speak to wetlands in the back area, but it is a pretty lot.
It is, and there's the same individual or same family, I'm not sure, owns 21 acres. It sits
Yes,
right on the Franklin.
actually, I was on the property 2 months ago.
Okay.
And it was kind of wet and everything, that's why I wanted to know if they walked it.
So we have some homework to do.
Okay.
But as long as we know that we can get a house lot out of it.
Yep.
Then we know that our investment would be okay.
Wonderful.
So we'll wait to hear from you.
Yeah, so when's your next select board meeting?
The 1st, April 1st.
So we're the 31st.
There'll be another one in April as well.
So I can come to the meeting and let the board know what
Most
the decision
assuredly.
was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right?
One last thing, Tom, before we leave, can you just, guys,
Yep.
quickly talk about, if transferring all right, what that means? Because I remember when we talked about this, some portion of the property has to remain, you're shaking your head, Tom?
Yeah, so if we're to assign our interest to, Audubon or the state or some subdivision of the state or some other conservation agency, there's rules around what they can do with it. They need to, I think, leave 70% of it as it's currently restricted, and they can then develop 30% of it. Because the Affordable Housing Trust is part of the town, in my opinion, we're not restricted. The Affordable Housing Trust can do what they want with it.
Very good.
Beautiful.
Pickleball courts.
I'm not thinking that's what.
Now you're singing.
Thanks, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Good to
Thank
see
you,
you all.
Andrew. Thank you, Tom.
Quick discussion on the calendar. Our next meeting is April 1st. With town meeting following, we have in the past always had a meeting at the end of April, very close to the town meeting. It's because there are always last-minute changes. And so I would recommend that we move, that would be the 28th, I believe. I would recommend, and I know it's a Tuesday, Kevin, and I know it's the fourth Tuesday, but it's just a week and a half before town meeting. And I think it'd be important to have a meeting. We could hold it at 6, or something like that. It's the pleasure of the board,
So
right?
what you're proposing is adding a meeting.
Or we may not need the one in between. We can always add a meeting if we have to have it, as long as we do 48 hours notice. But we need it on the 1st, because we've got some things to finalize. And then I just think things will happen between now and the end of April. They always do. And you don't want to be doing this the night of town meeting. So I would suggest that we hold that next second meeting, April 28th, as opposed to the 21st.
29th.
29th, sorry.
No,
Actually, that was the 5th Tuesday of the month, I think,
it's
yeah.
technically the 5th, yeah.
So, that's fine, yes.
You okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have the 1st still. We'll keep the 15th on the book because there's a gap in between for 2 weeks, and we'll do April 29th, just to block off the room. Or do you want to get rid of the
because then-
April 15th?
Oh, sorry. The 6th is, May 6th is Election Day.
as well, so.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page. So we'll do April 1st.
Yeah, I don't think we need to hold the one in the middle unless we need to.
Yeah,
Right.
so I'm going to say we'll keep that as a placeholder just in case.
As a placeholder, but don't post it.
Correct. And
Okay.
as we get closer to thing, but April 29th.
But we'll all keep it semi on our calendars if we need it, and then we'll plan on the 29th. Okay.
And do you want 6 or 7?
Seven's fine, yeah.
7?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it-
All right.
Yeah.
The room is available then, so we can do that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you both.
Next on the agenda is discussing the fiscal year 26 budget. Amanda's going to pop on there real quick just for the public because in the packet, we presented the old budget presentation. So now we have a proposal for the board to consider. I'm just going to run quickly with the changes that were made. So first on revenue, I know that was a question from the board to take a look at that. We did take another look. Recommending increasing ambulance receipts from 500,000 to 600,000. We have realized that revenue previously. Typically, I want to make sure we're transparent about this. Typically, we allocate that additional revenue to pay for ambulance receipts, for example. You're going to see a budget transfer moving money from ambulance receipts for ambulance debt. I think for us, we're concerned about doing that amount. However, we do have $300,000 potentially an economic bond bill that I think can help us with that. So recommending $100,000 in additional revenue for ambulance receipts. In terms of budgetary changes, based on feedback from board members and, doing a review based on what we had talked about before, there are a few changes that we've implemented in the budget. Briefly, for police, when we discussed this previously, the potential vacancy position was posted as $105,000. That is not correct, so it's going to be $85,000, and then $30,000 potential, savings realized with the chief retiring. So the budget was reduced in the salary line about $111,000. We did remove $28,000 from the expense line in police for the body cameras. We're going to pursue a grant or earmark, whatever we decide, best course of action to do there, but we're going to pursue another grant or earmark first before we try to pay for that. Proposing continue to keep the firefighter paramedic position in the fire budget. There's no change. That was in the previous budget as well. King Philip did reduce their assessment a little bit, and so we realized about $40,000 in savings there, so that drops down from 5.5% to 5.2%. Norfolk Elementary, they're going to do their budget hearing soon enough, and they're presenting to advisory tomorrow. They were at 4.6%. In our previous budget iteration, we had 4%. So saying, maybe we'll meet in the middle and 4.3 can resolve this and everyone can move forward there. So I've just put in the budget 4.3%. And then the last item was we discussed using about $10,000 in grant funds from the Council of Aging to help fund some of the salary positions. And it ended up coming a little bit lower that we could use maybe $8,000. I would need to speak with Karen and so forth regarding that. But those are the changes that we've made. And so the summation of that is where we're at now. We started at a $1.8 million deficit. We were at 1.36 last time. We're at 1.1, essentially $1.1 million deficit is $1,119,007. I think that's the budget we can present this year. And I just want to run through our process a little bit because I know at the last advisory meeting, there was pushback about using stabilization funds for Tri-County, and I want to be very clear again, the Tri-County debt that we're responsible for, there's no question about it, we don't have to vote for it, it's $400,000. So we have $1.7 million in free cash available to us right now. If we do this budget, it's a $1.1 million deficit, that leaves $600,000 in free cash. At the May town meeting, we're going to have about $200,000 in snow and ice deficit spending that we have to account for from free cash. And then we have $10,000 in EMS costs that we have to do a budget transfer for. As Andy had mentioned previously, this solar array, that could be $25,000 to $50,000. That may not be at this town meeting, it may be fall, but just those costs alone, not including the solar array, is $390,000 left in free cash. So we don't even have the capability to fund the full amount of Tri-County with free cash. So that's why I'm still recommending that Tri-County we fund via stabilization fund. We propose putting an article on the warrant for town meeting in May to do that as well. And, I think working with our departments, as we mentioned before, this is obviously a tight budget. It's a budget that we have to look for in the future, is addressing some challenges there. But, I think this is something that we could do, and I kind of want to get direction from the board too, because we had talked about some positions and hiring, et cetera. I want to give some understanding for departments as well. So I'd like to understand if the board is pleased with what we presented so far. Obviously, we can dive into it further, but I want to get some direction from you all and some feedback that I feel like I've gotten individually, but want to give you an opportunity to talk about now.
Kevin, you want to start?
Now, we were talking about some position layoffs or positions not freezing last time. Was that included in the budget here? Or?
Yeah, so what we're doing is, I would say we're looking at freezing positions and holding the line and freezing. It's largely the police position now. Yeah. Some of the other positions that we had talked about before was the assistant town administrator, HR director, the assessing technician, and the firefighter EMS position. Those are the ones that have been what we classify as vacant. We're including one of those. I can talk about why we're not including some of the other ones if you want me to, but we're including one of them. And I think we still evaluate in the next budget what we want to do with
I think
that.
it's important to say, too, that the DPW budget already reflects a loss from last year that just is carrying over. So it's not like there isn't an additional loss, and it reflects that loss as well. And I'm not saying that in judgment, but just so that the people know that the belts are tightened, and this is affecting all of our departments.
That's a good point, because I did mention in our presentation before, one, DPW's actually has a transfer station position that's already incorporated but that was incorporated earlier on, so I didn't mention that now, because these are adjustments. But, we could go down the line. We reduced building executive assistant position. We put a position part-time there. We removed an executive assistant position from fire. We've removed positions from the budget over a course of times that we haven't been able to fill back. So that's something that we're continuing in this budget as well. So that's part of the reason why some of those things, like assessing technician, for example, we have a long-term employee that really isn't able to come into work right now. We had some change in personnel there. We have a new deputy in place. We have a new chief assessor. Just the finance group, I didn't feel comfortable freezing that position too, considering, the time period is going to be busy time. It's a reval year. Didn't really think that was a prudent course of action at this moment, but.
Justin and I have gone through this thing line by line. It's a solid budget. I wish we didn't have to use as much free cash. Everyone is given at the office as best they can. But there are a couple of points I just would like to raise. King Philip, for example, where you're looking at the elementary schools, they represent 2/3 of our costs. Schools are basically 2/3 of what this town spends on. The Board of Selectmen control about 25% of this budget. The rest of it is fixed costs such as insurance, retirement, Norfolk County retirement, liability coverages, things of that nature, which are fixed. They're handed to us, Tri-County, fixed cost. We don't get to negotiate those numbers. So when you take out the schools and you take out the fixed costs, we're running about 20%. That's what's within the management control of this board. It is not controlling 100% of this budget. Now, we can influence it, and we have to approve it, so we do have input to the school budgets for sure. King Philip, you're showing a 5.2, which is the increase over the prior year. King Philip's actual budget is a 4.1, just to create. So if you're looking at the elementary school at 4.3, the equivalent number for King Philip, based on their operating budget, is 4.1. The 5.2 represents the increase because of the way the formula works in allocating by town. And it is a roll of the dice as to how that ends up. I've never been able to figure it out, and I like math. Never been able to figure that one out. And I do want to point out the difference between those two budgets, too. When you look at the Norfolk Elementary School and you look at the King Philip budget, they're not apples to apples. They're apples to pears. For example, King Philip is a town unto itself. So they have to fund all of their liability coverages, all of their insurance coverages, and all of their medical coverages. Those are built into that 4.1%. Those costs are not in the elementary school. They're in the town's budget. And we pay for all the health insurance, and we pay for the insurance costs. So they're not comparable budgets. I'm not suggesting one's better. They're very different. Elementary schools, high schools, you could never compare the budgets. They're entirely different in terms of how they constructed and how they spend their money. But there are differences between the numbers. You just can't compare them apples to apples. The other thing that I really want to talk about is this. I remember 2 years ago, Justin telling me we were having the perfect storm.
Yeah.
And I said, no, this is a gale wind. We haven't had the storm yet. You remember that conversation?
I remember.
Well, that gale wind isn't going to go away.
Yeah.
And this isn't a political statement in any way, shape, or form. Budgets are kind of, I'm a finance guy, so they're kind of my thing. We are the highest tax-based, residential tax-based town in the North Attleboro area. And I am very concerned about putting any additional burden on the taxpayer. This is a personal statement. So an override is a tough swallow for me at any point in time. And I do know from past experience in budgets, whether they be corporate or town, it doesn't matter. If you wait till halfway through the year to try and figure out how to reduce your budget, you have lost the opportunity to reduce your budgets. It never works. Never works. So I would hope that come July 1, which is the first day of the new fiscal year, that everybody pulls the covers back and starts taking a careful look at every single operating expense on the books. Because decisions they make in the first 3 months will have a dramatic impact and may not be able to be undone towards the end of that year. Contracts, for example, and I'm not picking on one or any other contract, but I know we dealt with it up at King Philip. I do not want to see us in a position like Plainville was 4 or 5 years ago, where they literally had to release 26 people out of their schools. And the only way we're going to be able to manage our way through this is to really take a careful look. Some people call it zero-based budgeting, but it's really different than that. To really go back and take a careful look at every single item and every single responsibility and find ways to either consolidate, change, modify, whatever it takes. But if we don't start at July 1, because our tradition is to start doing the budget process December. Yeah, December, and then we say, well, what would you like to get? I mean, that shouldn't even be a conversation next year. That shouldn't even be on the table. Again, I'm speaking for me. So I hope, I urge that the departments will do this come July 1, because if we don't, we can't fit, you're going to be looking at a lot of people unemployed. Yeah. There's no alternative, because there are 72 or 74 new, there were 72 or 74 permits, building permits for new homes pulled last year. I'm told as of today, we've had one. Mm-hmm. One. Yep. And if you look on that budget, if I remember the number, I think new growth was 600,000.
Correct.
The chances of our duplicating that, if this pattern holds, is 0 to none.
Correct.
And that is really one of the few significant revenue items we have outside of the 2.5 that we rely on every year. And it's been good to us because we've had a very sustained growth. Yep. Doesn't appear that that's going to be the case this year. So all of those things have got to start weighing on all of us to figure out how we're going to get through this if we're going to find a solution by the end of next fiscal year. So I'm sorry to pontificate on this, but I've thought about this a lot. I've gone through this ad nauseum. We've done projections on future costs and what we think those numbers will be and so on, and we have got to change this budget process. And we got to start July 1. So just my thoughts.
Well, I definitely agree with you on trying to find a way to do it without an override, because like you said, the taxes are so high and everyone's budget is so tight. I'm not one to, I'd rather find a way to have the departments cut it within, or find a way to find the savings so we don't need an override.
But we have to do it differently than we've done it in the past. This is my point. If the traditional way this town has done budgets, and it's normal, by the way, this isn't a criticism, it's business as usual. This is the way we've always done it. That you will send out a note saying, all right, take a look, tell me what you need. You'll give them a guide, 3%, 2%, whatever the number may be, and we move on. Well, it's too late to fix anything then. Yeah. It's too late. If you've got contract renewals for next year and you renew them in, June, July, or July, August, or September, you're stuck. You can't make any adjustments to those contracts. All those things need to be looked at now, and really before July 1. They need to start now, and looking where we can start to rethink how we do business. And I'm talking across the board, because that's the only way we have an opportunity of making this things, any better next year. I just, there's no other way to do it, and we've got to change the way we do business.
I agree 100%.
Enough pontificating here, but I've looked at the forecasts, I've gone through, I've married the forecast to this budget, and it keeps me up at night. You just, we can't manufacture the money, and so we've got to live within our means. Got to figure it out. We can, by the way. I believe we can. I believe we can do this.
I think that one piece of sunshine in that, and it's what you're saying is true, I think that one piece is that our fire station project has quite a bit of money in the contingency fund that will go back to the taxpayers, so release them from that. So they'll feel a little bit easing of their burden. I know it won't be significant, but every little bit counts.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, it can only be used for certain purposes. It can't be used in the operating budget. It can be used to reduce the debt.
Anita's saying, yeah, I know what she's saying.
And
She's saying it will return and reduce the burden.
$1 million off of that debt will have an impact on the tax rate.
That's what I'm saying.
No question about it.
Yeah.
And that's $1 million that wasn't spent, that goes back to our
Very good point.
taxpayers, that was carefully considered and responsibly handled.
Agreed.
And that $1 million is coming back to our taxpayers.
Yeah.
So I
That
think
will help the tax rate. It doesn't help the operating budget. That's the bad.
Oh, I understand that, but I think that the reason we're wrestling with the operating budget is because its impact on the tax rate, right?
Agreed. Yeah, they
So-
are synonymous, yeah.
And then we can look at our fees. I know that's not going to generate millions of dollars, but I think our fees need to be more competitive.
We've looked at them. I'm going to have a proposal for some select board fees. I want to credit Judith, and Amanda's going to help. I'll take a look at, we'll have a look at our select board fees. We've looked at the fees at previous budgets too. So I think in most of our departments, we're in a good spot. Planning is going to take a look at their fees. So we're in a good spot, but we do have a couple more departments that we can look at as well.
Because I think that's an area it seems like we haven't been keeping up with the, and I know it's not going to generate the
Every little bit helps.
1.1 million that we
Every little
need,
bit helps.
but
I mean, budgets are simple, well, they're not simple, but they are mathematically equivalent. You solve budget problems by increasing your revenue, reducing your costs, and usually it's a combination of both, so. But I just, the point I'm trying to make is it has to start now. We can't follow the traditional cycle, because it just, you can't fix it in 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That budget seemed like it's in the right direction for the board, just so I know what I'm communicating to Dr. Alardi and maybe advisory when they question me about it.
It's a tough message, but it's a better message sent now with the opportunity to work on it than coming to the end and saying, oh my God, now what do I do? And that's a message we don't want.
And the board is aligned with including an article to use stabilization funds for Tri-County?
yes,
There's
please.
no option.
Yep.
There's no option. You can't take it out of free cash, and the town voted. It's a bill that has to be paid.
Right.
There is no discretion here.
Yep.
And so there's no other option. And it will not short-term hurt our bond rating. So, I've looked at that. It will not impact our bond rating. We can't do it again, though. Just understand.
This is definitely one of those short-term solutions for right now.
It's part of the July 1 problem.
And then we can look at it in fall, replenishing. So there's a way to remedy that quickly.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so I think I have my marching orders. I think I know what we're doing, and I appreciate the board's feedback. I've obviously appreciate your collaboration, department heads' collaboration. There's a lot of work that went into this, so, and still more work to be done, but I think we know what we're doing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, and I know how hard you worked on that budget, so thank you and your department heads. I know it was a tough haul for the schools, and they worked with us and got down to a number that we could all live with this year, and I'm grateful for that, so I know we're all grateful for that, so.
Absolutely.
Now, is it 4-3 in the schools? Is that?
I saw Dr. Alardi this
Okay.
evening. I gave her heads up that that's what's going to be part of this budget presentation. I'm going to give her a call tomorrow morning
Okay.
and tell her I'm hopeful that everyone will be aligned with that number.
Okay.
I will relay this message to them, and I think everyone will be on board. All ready?
Yep.
Any further on the budget?
No, I think all the departments are all going to feel the impact, including the schools. That's
Everybody will. Everybody will.
not.
Okay, I think I'm set. Moving on,
Yes.
Jim? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Just quick updates. In the board's packet, I wanted to make sure the public saw this as well as the board, is just our response regarding the Pondville Crossing 40B response. So we, in the package that we sent to Mass Housing, included a letter, included planning board comments, it also included citizen comments. So we sent all of that information to Mass Housing and just wanted people to see that. A real quick update for the board regarding the MEC. I've previously talked to the board about a process that MEC is looking at regionalizing even further and joining the SEMREC. So I have in the board's package just a memo regarding about where we're at right now. The board, but summation of it, the board unanimously voted for our interim director to pursue further regionalization with SEMREC, particularly because it could potentially realize a pretty significant savings for all the communities. So it's something we're willing to explore. It's a draft IMA. If it's not something that, fits for what works for us, then there's levers for us to exit out of that process. But it's something that all of us thought was prudent, particularly because there could be a pretty significant savings regarding that. So that's in the board's packet for you as general information. And then finally, just a quick police chief search update. I provided a proposal regarding assessment regarding the police chief search that I want to have as part of this process. So it's just a point of information for you all, and just a quick little frame of reference for what I'm trying to do. We have the job description all set. My hope is to get the advertisement out by next week at the latest. Next week at the latest, we'll be putting that out and then undergoing a process to have interviews. I know the board has really talked about having a representative on the board, so that will be the case, and want to make a decision fairly soon on that. So just letting you know, I'm working on it. I'm working expeditiously on it. At the latest, that posting will be out next week. And one final little bit, sometimes we have a lot of good news regarding grants, and sometimes we don't have great news. And I want to share the not great news too, that way people know we're being honest about what we're doing here too, but also give context on a little bit of things. We had submitted another federal earmark for police radio equipment upgrades. It's about an $800,000 cost, but we had submitted, which we submitted for the full amount, but we got preliminary agreement on $380,000, which was pretty significant. So we made it to that final round, but as the federal government just signed a continuing resolution, it didn't include any of those requests. So for this year, we're not getting that 380, even though we were in line for that. I think it's important to say that because obviously the climate that we're in terms of federal, I don't know if we're going to have those resources available to us, but we will continue to advocate for them. We will continue to submit. And I know I spoke with Dana on Congressman Auchinclaw's team. They're opening up their portal April 1st. We will submit something there. We're going to try to advocate for that as well.
Throw it all in.
We'll try to get every lever possible to get some additional funds.
You never know.
And then the final thing is the House Ways and Means budget pretty soon is going to get to its next phase. So I did reach out to department heads. We already have some capital thoughts, but I did reach out to department heads to give us some ideas if there's some earmark requests that want to be considered for this budget too. So we will make sure we submit those along as well.
Have you heard anything more about the federal funding on school lunch programs?
Nothing.
That scares me.
We've heard nothing. And I haven't heard anything from our superintendent either regarding it. Very concerned about that.
I am too. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I had a meeting this morning on the MMA Finance Committee, and one of the things that we're sending the message to all communities is to say, one, if there's any impact on federal funds that you were expecting to get and you're not getting, please communicate, because we want to know that and advocate for it. Because one of the things that I was concerned about was the $1 million for the water and wastewater. I did make the submission for the technical correction to give us flexibility on it. We don't have that money in hand though, so that concerns me. We'll see. We'll see if there's any impact.
I don't know how you can, that was actually one of the things I meant to chat with you about today, because it's a hypothetical. We just don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
But all that's going on, I do worry about some of these federal programs that we depend on. especially in the educational area. If they start dinging that, it could have a significant impact on towns like ours.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even the cuts to the veteran funding is in our town, that little bit really matters.
But we don't know. It seems to be a daily event. I don't know. But we need to watch it.
Indeed. That was all my updates.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the warrants?
I'll make a motion to read all of them, or just make a motion to approve the warrants.
As printed in the agenda.
As printed in the agenda.
There we go.
Second.
Yeah.
You don't want to read all those numbers?
No.
I don't blame you a bit. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes?
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of January 21st, 25.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ma'am, we skipped over select board comments. I had a couple
By
of
all
things.
means.
Is that all right? I'm sorry to go out of order.
Sorry, I skipped
Nope,
over it.
It's all good. I just wanted to share a couple of things. I attended the next meeting of the Massachusetts Select Board Association, and it was mostly energy is being put right into some of the sessions that they're planning for the fall, so it was less information. But last time I learned so much about the legislative things happening, and less of that this time. I also went to a webinar about helping town meeting being more accessible for people, and they had some really interesting ideas I wanted to share with Justin, but I wanted to do it in front of the board so that one of the towns that was on the meeting suggested that they had like an overfill room where families could watch the town meeting with their families, and then if it came time to vote, they could move into the room to vote, so it allowed them to participate even though they were with their families. I thought that was interesting. And in another community, they had partnered with the League of Women Voters, where people could remotely, they can't vote remotely, that's against the law, but they could participate remotely, so they could call in or text in questions, and then the League of Women Voters would say, has this question been asked already? And if it hadn't, they would bring the question to the microphone. So I thought that idea of remote participation, I know we have our turnout is poor, in my opinion, for town government. I see sometimes they're like, oh, the government. Well, in Norfolk, we have town government, which means like they're the legislators. Like they're making that decision and they don't come. And so I think that anything that we can do to increase participation of our community, because they are the legislators in that model of the work that we're doing. So I thought those ideas were interesting to allow more participation, either through a family room kind of situation or remote, at least participation, even though they couldn't vote. I also attended the library legislative breakfast in the Norfolk Library. It was quite a lovely event that just celebrates the good work library are doing and advocates. And Representative Vaughn was there, and Senator Roush was there, and she spoke really eloquently about the importance of libraries to our community. And just because we have very little time to talk to each other, I agree with David about office hours, and I would be happy to sort of launch that and champion that. I know you have so many meetings right now, and so I'd love to meet with you and talk about getting office hours launched, or even having a system where people could call in if they wanted a meeting and one of us could take it. I think that's a really good idea.
Well, can we stay on that for a sec? Because I agree with you. Yeah. I'm all for it, and it's one of those things that falls through the cracks. We've all agreed we want to do it, and then we never find the time to do it. And this is probably a good time to do it.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.
I mean, I'm perfectly willing to take a day next week. You take a day next week?
Absolutely.
You're in the employed ranks. We're in the unemployed ranks, so it's harder for you.
Well, I could possibly take a weekend or a Saturday or something, or maybe early evening.
Okay. Why don't we, each of us, get a day? Let's do something about that.
I
think
I would love that, because and just then advertise our availability.
Right.
And in the past, just so people watching, in the past I've sat, I can't tell you how many times in the library, nobody comes.
Well,
but I'm happy to sit there. If people want to come, I want to be available.
Well,
and
let's do it upstairs, and just one of us. And because I know that when I did, I had 3 or 4 people come in. I mean, it was a busy day.
I won't take that personally. Nobody came to me.
Well, I wasn't in the library.
Oh.
They all just started pulling books by the time they got to you.
So what I might ask regarding that is, if there are some dates or ideas that you have, why don't you send them to Amanda?
I'll give you a day every week for the next 4 weeks.
Perfect. Not a
Sure.
whole day, though.
All right.
Just
And then-
No, I mean, I'll give you a date.
Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll collaborate on the dates, and what we'll do to help with the advertising, obviously we can discuss it at the next board meeting, but we'll wrap it in with Guilfoyle, we'll put it on social
the
media.
webpage.
We'll do all
Beautiful.
that to try
Okay, yeah,
to promote
I'm
it.
all for it.
I think that's a really good idea, and thank you to David for bringing that up again.
And I know we talked about this a month ago, and I'm still due to do a cable show. I'm
Yes.
behind on that, and I need to nail you for that, because we've got to get that done in the next week or two.
You can blame me a little bit for that.
But it is the perfect time to do it, with the budget and everything that's going on.
I
so,
agree.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
agree.
good. Thanks for
And then
bringing it up again.
One last thing is, if you didn't get to see it, our astronauts splashed down and they bobbed in the water waiting for the team to come and collect them, and there were dolphins all around, and the sun was sparkling on the water, and the dolphins were like curious, like, what's in our water? And it was just very good. It was a very good thing to see, and I'm pleased that they're home safely, and it was just a beautiful thing if you have the opportunity to go, and I'm sure you can stream that, and it was quite nice to see the little dolphins like, hey, how are you?
I'm
So,
just happy they're home safe.
Now,
I'm happy they're home
Happy
safe.
they're
could I make another comment? I feel that at the town meeting, when you have to say yes or no, and sometimes it's, if you say no to somebody, your next door neighbor that's for the school, it's kind of tough. And they do have this, I'd like to look into the clicker. So you're voting kind of anonymous while you're there. So you don't got to publicly say, no, I'm against the schools, or I'm for the schools. I think you're voting, when you vote for your elections, you're in a booth, your vote is private.
I understand the point. I don't have a bias on it one way or the other.
A lot of other towns are doing the same thing. You're voting, you're there, you're voting, it's just sort of anonymous, it's your vote.
I know that the world has become very divisive, and if you don't agree with me, then you're just not very smart kind of attitude. I'm kind of old school. I don't share that point of view. If I'm sitting next to you, I'm just old school.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting, I suspect you are too.
Yeah.
You want to vote yes and I want to vote no. It doesn't mean anything other than that's your opinion and this is mine. It's okay.
Perfect example was at the town meeting on the migrant shelter. People get up and voice their opinion, and people are very hostile to them. So it's almost like they couldn't have their opinion. And voting can be the same way.
So,
That was
That was a little different, but I'm just saying.
very different. Yeah, but I know other towns have done it, and it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. If it makes people more comfortable in casting their vote, I guess that's a good thing.
And it could make the town meeting attendance go up if they feel more comfortable about voting.
so that's what in general, I like the idea of people having a vote and standing up for it. I like that a lot. But if what you're saying is if giving people more anonymity as they make those decisions could increase our participation, then that would be the thing that would sway me to say, well, then this is something we should explore. Maybe we could look at if there's research about the impact, if we've got
can do
the
that.
towns that do that.
I'll speak with our town clerk. I obviously want to let Jay, our moderator, know about some of the comments that town meeting, so I feel more than comfortable sharing with it and following up.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
If that's what they want, it's okay with me. I mean, I don't know that.
I would just say, does that affect, what I would want to know specifically is, does going to a anonymous kind of voting affect or increase participation in town meeting? Like if a town switched over to the clickers,
Will you
and
get more
then
people?
do more people come or don't they? And there must be research about that.
There might be. I don't know anything off the top of my head.
I don't expect you to know
Well,
it off the top of your head.
It would be pretty simple. Any town that did it 3 or 4 years, they know whether their attendance
Your
went up or
attendance
down.
stayed up. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I don't know. It's a wild guess. I'm kind of with Anita. I think you need to, if you have an opinion, speak it. It's okay. Stand up for what you believe. It's nothing wrong with that. And keep in mind, most of our votes are verbal.
But if people are
But when you do have a
intimidated-
stand-up, kind of, when you got to count the vote, you stand up, and people see where you stand. I mean, you were on the stage, I've been on the stage, you've been on the stage, we get to see it.
Yeah.
But I've never looked at that as saying, well, he's against this, or, she's for that. I've never viewed it that way. I view it as their opinion. It's their right. It's okay.
I want to sleep on it. It's an interesting idea, and if I'm really committed to trying to make it accessible to more people, and if that's a way to go, then that's interesting.
Yeah.
We'll act upon it and try to give you some information.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do.
Yep.
I'll do it for the board.
No harm, no
It's an
foul.
interesting idea.
It could be, I think it's very simple. If you find out which town to use in Clicker, I think Wellesley is, and I think Plainville was, but all you gotta do is find out if the attendance went up or down since they used it.
Well,
Yes.
I think Wellesley has a representative town meeting.
They do.
Yeah, they don't
For
have-
example,
they don't have
Brookline did
They don't have an
clicker-
open meeting.
Yeah, Brookline did clickers as well, but I wouldn't bring that up because it was
Yeah,
representative.
you've got to compare to
What
towns
you're
that still have
helpful
open
is if
meetings.
Plainville transitions to it, I can easily do that. I'll speak with Carol because she might have some information there, and I'll obviously speak with our moderator.
It's worth a thought. Sure.
Double back.
Why not?
Okay. All right.
Anything else, ma'am?
That's all I have.
Kevin, anything you want to add?
No.
With the Dolphins.
Okay. Okay. We do have an executive session this evening. I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session under Mass General Law C-30A, 21A-3, to discuss collective bargaining with both the Norfolk Police Officers representing the Norfolk Police the Norfolk Police Officers Union represented by the Norfolk Police Officers Bargaining Unit, and the Norfolk Fire Union represented by Local 41341 AFL-CIO, insofar as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiation position of the public body. And we will also, be reviewing and approving executive minutes. We will not return to open session. I need a roll call. Would I second for that motion?
Second.
I need a roll call vote. Mr. Roach.
Aye.
You need to say your name and number.
Kevin Roach, aye.
Perfect.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye. We are now in executive session.
That's close.